Hi everyone, thank you obviously for this time today. Yeah, as the title says, a guide to multilingual content marketing and how I know a French blogger. Just before I start, is anybody here a French blogger? Anybody here French? Okay, now because there was this kind of discussion in the office, this could have been a bit of a career roulette moment. So without getting into too much detail, just really a little bit about me. As you heard, I've got 11 years marketing communications experience. I started at the European Commission as a speechwriter and a policy advisor. And from there, I actually moved into digital marketing and digital communications. I've worked across Europe and America, and worked with lots of different international brands. That picture seems like I'm really miserable, but I don't know what I was looking at. But as you can see, there's a variety of different brands there that have got an international presence. So one of the big things that we always get asked is, what is content marketing and how do we actually explain content marketing? To stray away from the norm a bit, the way I like to look at content marketing is that your customers don't care about you, your products or your services, they care about themselves. Their wants, their needs. Content marketing is about creating interesting information your customers are passionate about so they actually pay attention to you. So this is an extension of what Baz was actually talking about before as well. It's what's relevant to somebody and actually what they're searching for. That image there is a little bit of narcissistic content marketing. It's that selfie, and it is a form of content marketing. Now, with relation to search and how we have this impact, when we're creating content, we're doing it based on a variety of different reasons. Now, just a quick show of hands, who here has ever searched for a recipe? Wow, okay, a lot of people. Okay, so when you then search for a recipe, you click on one of the titles that you think is most relevant or something that you're going to be very interested in. Now, I clicked on decadent beet and chocolate cake. I didn't know what beet was at the time. It turns out to be that, and it was a beetroot. I made it, and it didn't taste very nice. But one of the big areas about this was being able to find that content, being able to actually access it, being able to actually, communicate then with the person that wrote it was a big deal. And that's just part of a user journey. How many times, just a quick show of hands again, have you clicked on a website and then looked at the social profiles? And you look at one of the main reasons why we look at a social profile is actually to see how relevant that person is. Are they still timely? Are they going to actually provide you with any additional information? And just a side note, one of the big things that we've been hearing a lot, who here has heard the title, blogging is dead? Yeah, okay, one or two people. I mean, this thing has come about, blogging is dead, blogging is dead. Well, today, there's been quite a lot of people blogging, live blogging, Twitter. When you're pushing out content on a variety of different social platforms, you are blogging, you're still pushing out content. And it's relevant to a period of time. It's relevant to what is actually happening. And that is how we've got to look at content. That's how we look at international content marketing as well. So what is international content marketing? This is kind of how I've described it many times in my own head and to clients. It's where you do it across countries, multiple regions, when you identify the right channels, platforms, and you look at specific things like culture, technology. It is that case of understand your audience. How is your audience speaking, and actually how is your audience interacting and taking that information? So who here has heard of PEST? Yeah, people that have done marketing, whoever works in a business has heard of PEST, so political, economical, social, cultural, and technological. Two of the key areas within international content marketing that can either help provide the strategy or give you the ideas for the content, which can then have the influence, social, cultural, and technological. Now, social, cultural is going to give you the what. What is it people are actually talking about? How are they talking about it? And the technological is going to give you actually that journey. How are people actually accessing that information? Where are they going to be going with it? So a key area of this is language. It's not just about translation. It forms a big part of it. But language is actually the the colloquialisms, the humor, the soft things that you can't really just put as a tangible algorithm into search engines. I mean, that demonstration before from Bing, where Skype, sorry, yeah. I mean, amazing. I speak several languages. I might not have to anymore in a few years, but that's a great way of actually showing how language can be broken down. But then it's those little colloquialisms, the things that are happening in real time, day-to-day events, that's going to make that impact. So if in Italy, for example, there's a huge play about the political culture. So if you were to actually write about a politician and use them as some sort of construct in the content that you're producing, that won't translate well into English. So it's those soft areas that's going to make a big play into the kind of content that you produce. As an extension of that, you've got language and culture. Just a note on that language, actually. The thing about translation that is really interesting was KFC. I don't know if anybody ever heard this. When they went over to China, they spent absolutely millions on getting the menus right, getting the actual color and logo and everything correct. And their actual, catchphrase, finger licking good. Does anybody know what it got translated to in Chinese? No. We eat your fingers. That's actually how it got translated. And Portuguese word for pinto means small. When Ford sent their Pinto to Brazil, in Brazil, the word pinto means small male. Okay. So they spent millions producing this car, all this advertising, everything. So these little colloquialisms, these little changes in the nuances make a massive difference. Now, language and culture is where you take the language and you're integrating it into the culture. Language is an ever-evolving aspect. In England 500 years ago, the first language was French. Where is English today? And we see how English is getting shortened. We're seeing a lot of words which are being, added to the, Webster's dictionary. A lot of words which now seem to be archaic, which only a few words, years ago were fine. So language and culture is just the common cultural references that people are using. And really, my tip is embrace it when there is change and use it to your content marketing advantage. So there's a great example from Dr. Pepper. That's 23 sabores blended into one extraordinary taste, inconfundibile. Right? 23 flavors blended into one, taste, unmistakable. Now that advert is used in LA. They've got a massive Latin American community. And they realized that what's happened is you've got this generation of multilingual children that are speaking something called Spanglish. Okay? I was brought up in a trilingual household, and what happens is when you're using common cultural references, you're switching out words for the translated word, and you don't even realize it. And this has now become one of the big marketing ploys. So if you were to actually look at marketing in, West US, you've got to try and think, if you're targeting targeted ads, this is fantastic, Spanglish. You're hitting a certain demographic. The second area that we're talking about was technology. This is from We Are Social. Great example here of really the data that they've collected from a year's worth of study. And what the yellow is showing you is actual population. Blue, internet users. Green is active social media users. And red is mobile connections. What can we do with this data? There's a variety of different things that you can do with the data, but I think, to show there, Western Europe's got 6% of the total, world population, and it uses 7% of mobile connections, or it has 7% of mobile connections. You compare that to, East Asia, that's got 22% of the population and 22% of, mobile connections. Think about it this way. If you're going to do, marketing and the user journey, and it all starts with the user, how the user is taking that information, how they're acquiring, what they're searching for. If they're using mobile, that can start to help you get that information into your mind, should we do more of a mobile campaign rather than a desktop campaign? But as we were hearing before, might it be an app? Might it just be, desktop usage? The next slide, when I was producing it, was really more just to look at between the Americas, so my apology that there's only a US flag there, and against Europe. So there is a little bit of a difference in terms of total population, but the big thing that I can see from there is the active social media users, where it's like 100 million more, an extra 100 million social media users. So once again, you're looking at different kinds of content types that's going to be suitable for different markets. An extension of that can even be when you look in Europe and you break down European social media users. Okay, so just a quick show of hands then. In terms of total active social media accounts, raise your hands if you think Italy has got more social media users than England. Okay, so it's about 6 or 7. The ones that kept their hands down, yeah, you're right. There's a total difference of about 10 million active social media accounts. Now, the other interesting statistic, when you dig down into it, is about prepaid mobile contracts. I think some people already here know what the difference is in the prepaid mobile contracts area, so you can't join in. But raise your hands if you think Italy has got more prepaid mobile contracts. Okay, right. They actually do. It's 84% prepaid mobile contracts to England's 41%. And that's going to start to give you a bit more of an indication as to how people are using their mobiles in different countries. And one of the big things is, in Italy, there aren't a lot of young people with bank accounts. So there can't be direct debit. Yeah? They prefer to go still into a shop and top up their phones. And because of that, the internet is very, very expensive. So what they have to do is they have to find cafes with Wi-Fi. The amount of times I've had arguments with my cousins when I visited them because they've just wanted to spend about a good hour searching for a cafe with a Wi-Fi connection rather than, talking to me. Not seen them for a year, but So really, just to summarize these points from an international content marketing perspective, I start with a pest analysis or an international pest analysis. I look at where we can have that influence between the social, cultural, and the technological aspects. Yes, the political and the economic is going to have an impact. It's going to trickle through those other areas. But you can start to see where you can start to strategize better and start to create the right types of content in the right markets. Make considerations for all applicable aspects. Yeah, so look at things like Spanglish. There are certain areas in southern France which will speak a mixture of French and Spanish, a mixture of French and Italian, and a mixture of French and German. So is there some sort of language communication issue there that if you just went completely French, how's that going to be taken? I know working in Strasbourg, it was mind-boggling just how many different languages were being spoken in one area, because it was Dutch, French, German, elements of Polish. It was unique. Don't just translate. Do something that we've termed here at Click, transcreate. Actually take the language, take the essence of what the language is, and put that into the actual translation itself. Because that is when you will start to pick up on the colloquialisms. Use bloggers. If you're doing outreach, use bloggers, because they're the ones that can give you that unique insight into the different ways that you can actually speak to your audience and using that jargon and terminology. Understand where the user journeys are different, because that's going to make a massive impact. So before from the technological, how is that different? Mobile data compared to computer. Why are people using still a lot more computer in Southern Europe than they are their mobile phones? So understand that consumer journey, because that will have an impact. And understand what you're thinking, what devices work best on that journey as well. So talking about mobile, what about tablet? Tablet's a huge thing. If you ever walk through London, you see people with iPads. Oh, you're walking through and taking pictures, and it's are they using their iPad more than they're using a desktop? So this is just like a bit of a subplot to content marketing, international content marketing. I was asked by Pirelli and Fiat, who were working together, to get me to help them with one of their projects. The mission was simple: find 10 motoring bloggers and popular amongst the 28 to 36 demographic in France and Italy, to promote Pirelli's new tyre produced with car manufacturer Fiat. In return, these bloggers will get a day in Turin at the Fiat garage testing the new Fiat Punto Sport. This was a few years ago. I was thinking, right, okay, well, yeah, I can do that. Sounds easy, doesn't it? You know, get to go to Turin, they get all expenses paid, and they test a car. The outcome. So what they were going to do was they were going to actually produce several different types of content for it. So it was going to be video, engaging blog posts, to specifically drive engagement around this tyre launch. Now, the people we had to find were, you know, these very specific types of motoring bloggers, people, you know, big audiences, big social outreach at that time. Now, at the time, it was only Facebook and Twitter that they were interested in. This was back in 2011. Yeah, it only took me 3 days. It was really one of the easiest jobs I had, or so I thought, because I didn't actually bargain on having a French blogger come out with this statement. I want a Ferrari. I need to test the tires. I want the Ferrari at my house in 2 days. Yeah, a lot of you are pulling the same face that I pulled. I didn't quite know how to respond to that, so I rang Fiat straight away. I said, listen, they've got this great French blogger. He's got lots of, you know, great video content, absolutely fantastic. You know, he'll absolutely storm it. He's the perfect blogger for you. But he wants a Ferrari at his house in 2 days. The language that came back was a bit colourful, so I had to I had to calm it down, and that was my puppy face, you know. So I said, you know, like, I'm really sorry, you know, I can't actually help you. Fiat and Pirelli are interested in your participation. But I can't send across a Ferrari 612 Scaglietti. He was very particular about the model, the colour, the colour of the actual interior. I remember it was midnight blue with a brown leather tan interior. Specific about the aircon, just pointless. And then he sends me an email. It took me 3 days to read because I couldn't stop laughing, and I also had to change all of my addresses on the web and make sure he could never find me, because he said that he's going to send me a plague of locusts, that my firstborn shall be a devil child, that Moses couldn't even help me, and my favorite one, the horsemen of the apocalypse are on their way. Yeah, so I was scared for a bit, and then I wrote back saying, okay, sorry I couldn't help you this time, and maybe in the future we could do something together. But that was actually terrifying as a response. The email must have been about 4 pages, and it just went biblical. It was brilliant. So really, the points that I took from this content marketing exercise, this outreach process, this whole what was going to be produced and how it's going to be produced and the language we were using, you know, one of the first things I did was I actually went back over my emails. I made sure, you know, did I actually use the right French language? You know, I wasn't using some sort of like bits which didn't, you know, matter or anything. I wasn't speaking archaic, you know, I didn't offend him in some way. And you know, the positive things we found was, you know, it's about finding the right user, the right person that we could reach out to. That was key. That was essential at that moment in time. He met the content marketing brief. He did. He was absolutely perfect for it, you know, because he had lots of video on his site. He was unique. He was a bit actually like a Jeremy Clarkson, a French Jeremy Clarkson, which is unique. He was becoming well known for video content. You know, he had this massive YouTube channel, and what he was doing was taking YouTube channel and posting it on Facebook, because he could see people going to the Facebook page more than the YouTube page at the time. And he used fantastic language, really resonating language. And you could go, right, okay, well, that, you know, perfect. What I didn't do, really, and I've learned from this now, is I actually didn't consider the blogger culture in France. So bloggers in France they're treated like rock stars. Yeah, they're treated like these superstars. Who do you think you are speaking to me like this? So for him to actually ask for a Ferrari, I've later found out, is nothing, unknown. It's actually quite common that they ask for these big prizes or big things in return for what they would eventually call, doing you a favor. Videos are a really, really personal experience in France. They like to produce a lot of their own videos. They like to actually take their own videos, edit their own videos, do commentary, voiceovers. He didn't want something that Fiat was going to produce for him. Pirelli was going to give him all this stuff. No, he didn't care. He just wanted to do his own video. And that was one of the things he actually said in the email. He said, you told me I couldn't do my own videos. And, well, yeah, because we didn't want you showing all the tricks. But it was a big part of it. Then the word participation. He didn't like the word participation. I've spoken to a lot of French friends after that moment, that episode. Participation in France, it's deemed to be almost quite negative. It's about involvement. How emotionally connected can someone get with the brand or product? What can they do with it? So if you say participate in this, that's almost like saying if you want to. If you want them really involved, get them involved in the whole process from the very start. And actually it would have worked better with different content type, because what he did say was, what would have worked really well was if you'd have sent me 4 tires for my car, and I could have done, an in-depth review over a month. He didn't care about going to Turin. He didn't want to drive on the roof of the Fiat garage. It wasn't the Italian job for him. He just wanted to test these tires, and admittedly, he wanted to push his luck a little bit. But it's something there that when you're looking at international content marketing, keep those cultural aspects, to mind, and that technological journey as well to mind. That's it from me. So if you've got any questions, happy to take them.